The backstage area of AGT buzzed with lights, voices, and nervous laughter, but Maria Lea stood quietly in the corner, gently rocking her baby girl, Ariella, in her arms. She had rushed straight from her shift at a small Filipino bakery, still wearing her simple floral dress lightly dusted with flour. Her hair was tied back quickly, a few loose strands brushing her cheeks. She didn't look like a typical contestant, she looked like a mother fighting against exhaustion, fear, and hope all at once. Her call time was fast approaching, and her hands trembled slightly as she checked the blanket wrapped around her daughter. She whispered softly in Tagalog, "Anak, konting tease lang. Mama will sing for your future." Every step she took to get here had been heavy. The long bus ride, the crowded train, the worry of whether she was making a foolish dream out of motherhood. But something inside her, something fierce and tender, kept pushing her forward. When her name echoed through the speakers, her heart jumped. She swallowed hard. Contestant number 2784, Maria Lea. She froze. Her legs didn't want to move. The fear of failing in front of millions struck her like lightning. What if she embarrassed herself? What if they laughed? A staff member, noticing her panic and the baby in her arms, approached her gently. "Hey, you're up. Do you want me to hold your baby while you perform?" Maria looked at the woman's kind eyes. Slowly, she nodded. "Please, take care of her." She placed baby Ariella into the staff member's arms, brushing a soft kiss on her forehead. "My love, Mama is about to sing for us." Taking a shaky breath, her eyes now shining with courage, Maria stepped toward the blinding lights of the stage, not knowing her life was about to change forever. As Maria stepped onto the stage, the blinding lights made her squint for a moment. The large AGT theater seemed to swallow her tiny frame. Thousands of eyes stared down at her, and a soft wave of murmurs rippled through the audience, some curious, some confused, some instantly sympathetic. She stood in the middle of the stage, her hands clasped tightly in front of her, still trembling from having handed her baby over just seconds ago. Behind her smile was a storm of fear and hope fighting for space inside her chest. Simon Cowell, who had been casually adjusting his microphone and flipping through notes, suddenly paused. There was something unusual about this contestant. She wasn't dressed up, she wasn't confident, she wasn't performing, yet the room felt her presence immediately. It was raw, vulnerable, honest. He leaned forward, studying her with unexpectedly gentle eyes. "You seem emotional already," he said, his voice surprisingly soft. "Are you all right?" Maria inhaled shakily, her voice barely louder than a whisper. I didn't want to miss this chance. I came straight from work, and I'm a little nervous." The audience leaned in, sensing her sincerity. Simon tilted his head. "Did you come alone?" Maria shook her head, a tiny smile forming. "No, my baby girl is backstage. Someone is holding her for me so I can be here." A visible shift happened on the judges' panel. Heidi placed a hand over her heart. Sophia's eyes warmed, even Howie straightened, instantly more attentive. Simon's expression softened even further. "Wow, that's dedication. And very brave of you." Maria swallowed her fear. "I just want to make her proud. And, maybe show her that dreams don't stop when you become a mother." At that moment, the entire theater fell silent, as if holding its breath, waiting to hear the voice behind those trembling words. The stage lights softened as the music director signaled for the track to begin. Maria stood completely still, her hands gently gripping the microphone as if it were the only thing holding her steady. The first piano notes of "You Raise Me Up" floated through the theater like a quiet prayer. Maria closed her eyes. For a brief moment, she wasn't on a massive stage. She was in her tiny apartment in Manila, rocking her baby to sleep. She was singing in the bakery during slow afternoons. She was whispering to herself on crowded buses, "Kaya mo, too." And then, she opened her mouth. Her first note was soft, almost shaky, but pure. It glided through the theater, surprising the audience with its sweetness. A hush fell instantly. Even the tech crew backstage paused in their movement, drawn by the sound. As Maria continued, her voice grew stronger, warmer. Every lyric seemed to carry a piece of every sacrifice she had ever made. The nights she cried alone. The dreams she tucked under piles of responsibilities. The heavy fear that she wasn't enough. Backstage, the staff member holding baby Ariella bounced gently as the child let out a tiny giggle, recognizing the familiar sound of her mother's voice. "She knows," the woman whispered with a soft smile. On stage, Maria reached the chorus, and something inside her broke open, a flood of emotion pouring out in a breathtaking, soaring note that made the audience gasp. People rose from their seats without even realizing it. Heidi pressed a hand to her heart. Howie's mouth fell open. Sophia blinked rapidly, visibly moved. But it was Simon, leaning forward, frozen, that said everything. Something in this voice was piercing straight through him. By the final note, the entire room felt transformed, lifted by the quiet strength of a mother who sang not for fame, but for love. As the last golden note left Maria's lips, it hung in the air like a fragile piece of her soul, trembling, shining, unforgettable. For a moment, nobody moved. It was as if the whole world had forgotten how to breathe. Then Simon slowly lifted his hand to his face. He blinked hard. Once. Twice. Trying to fight something he wasn't used to showing. A tear escaped anyway. The audience gasped. The sight of Simon Cowell crying was almost as shocking as the performance itself. Even Maria, still catching her breath on stage, covered her mouth in disbelief. She hadn't expected applause, much less this. Simon took a shaky breath, his voice noticeably rougher than usual. That, he paused, clearing his throat, that wasn't just singing. Maria stood frozen. That was love, he continued. That was every struggle, every sacrifice, every night you held your baby and wondered how you'd make it through. I felt all of it. Maria's eyes filled with tears instantly. Sophia leaned toward her microphone. Maria, you sang like someone who's been carrying mountains, but still chooses to lift others. The audience erupted into soft murmurs of agreement. Backstage, the staff member returned with baby Ariella, who was now wide awake and smiling, as if sensing the magic on stage. When Maria saw her daughter being brought toward her, she instinctively reached out, tears streaming as she held her baby close to her chest. Simon watched the scene quietly, mother and child wrapped in a moment more powerful than any scripted TV moment could ever deliver. You're not just a singer, Simon said softly. You're a mother who turned her pain into beauty. Maria hugged her baby tighter, her voice cracking as she whispered. I did it, for us. And the world watched, moved to tears right alongside her. For several seconds after Maria whispered, I did it, for us, the theater stayed wrapped in a tender silence, as if everyone was afraid to break the moment. Then, like a wave rising after the moon's gentle pull, the entire audience surged to their feet. Thunderous applause filled the room. People cheered, cried, clapped above their heads. Some even held their hearts as if trying to steady them. It wasn't just a standing ovation, it was a tribute to a woman who had walked onto the stage exhausted and unnoticed, and walked off glowing like a quiet sun. Heidi wiped her tears openly. That was one of the most beautiful performances I have ever witnessed, she said, voice trembling. You didn't just sing the song, you lived it. Sophia leaned forward, hands clasped tightly in front of her chest. You showed the world what strength looks like. This wasn't a performance, it was a story. And we all felt it. Howie raised his finger as if delivering a thesis. You came here holding a baby, he said with a soft laugh, but now you're holding America's heart. Maria hugged Ariella closer, tears dripping onto her baby's tiny blanket. Thank you so much. But Simon wasn't done. He looked down at his buzzer. Then he looked back at Maria. And his eyes softened again. I believe the world needs voices like yours, he said. Real, honest, full of love. He pressed the golden buzzer. The room exploded. Gold confetti burst from the ceiling, swirling like tiny sunflakes around Maria and her baby. Ariella reached out with chubby hands, trying to catch the falling pieces, while Maria laughed through her tears, overwhelmed and radiant. As the golden storm surrounded them, mother and daughter stood together in the center of the stage, living proof that love can lift even the tired, even the scared, even the ordinary, into something extraordinary.